All right, so before we discuss about improving Indonesian logistics industry, we have Erwin Suryabarata to report what is happening in Asian African Conference 2015 at Jakarta Convention Center. Good morning, Erwin. Could you please tell us what's going on there and what will be the agenda today? What are the results of the conference and what issues are brought up during the event?
By the Indonesian President, Mr. Joko Widodo. This is very interesting opening statement because President Joko Widodo bringing a lot of very important, crucial issue regarding this Asian African Conference. When we try to compare the Asian African Conference back then in 1955, a lot of dynamic changes already happening, and we have these emerging new challenges like terrorism, climate change, racism, and intolerance. Under the new theme, Advancing South-South Cooperation, Mr. Jokowi also mentioned a lot of great aspects that already been done by Asian African countries, and he said that this is the time for Asia Africa to raise their voice and strengthen the solidarity. We have also this kind of new living world order where we still have this kind of about 20% of the richest country still dominates the global world in so many aspects, especially in the business environment. And this is the reason Mr. Jokowi emphasized the time for Asia Africa to raise their voice and strengthen the solidarity. And Mr. Jokowi also mentioned in one of his opening statements that we still have this kind of wrong idea that all of the global economic issue should be covered or recovered by only the dominant player in the business environment in the global scale, like IMF or World Bank. So it's time for us also to show our readiness to cooperate each other. And to have this kind of readiness, we need to have the main support factor. And Mr. Jokowi emphasized on the expanding of the trade and investment through connectivity. And this kind of connectivity can be built by having this kind of good infrastructure as well as human resource. Among so many crucial aspects mentioned by Mr. Jokowi in his opening statement, he also mentioned about the main focus area of the discussion of the Asian African Conference, which is conflict resolution in the Muslim world, where the concrete actions needs to be taken by the member of Asian African Conference. Compared to the 1955 Asian African Conference, at that time, our main mission is to set ourselves free from the colonialism and also the invasion. But now we still have one single country as the member of Asian African Conference, which is not having their independence, which is Palestine. Mr. Jokowi also said the economic potential of the two continents, that when we talk about the Asian African as the continents, they jointly contribute about 28.5% of the global GDP. So meaning that more unexplored economic potentials need to be shared.
Okay, thank you, Erwin. So to discuss more about improving Indonesian logistics industry, we have Ms. Hermione Parsons. She's the Director for Supply Chain and Logistics at Victoria University. All right, so good morning.
Good morning, Adrian.
Yeah, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Glad to be here.
All right, it's a pleasure to see you here on Revenews International. All right, so yeah, as we saw before, it's about the Asian African Conference. Indonesia is having a massive event called Asian African Conference 2015. So what do you think about the event? So is it a good opportunity for Indonesia to build a good relationship with other countries?
It is an excellent opportunity, and I believe it was Indonesian initiative in the first place. It seems to me that this sort of opportunity allows for good relationships to be built, experiences to be shared, and a better understanding about how we deal with complex issues across the world, particularly in the South-South part of the world as well. Yes.
All right, and then, well, some people said that this is just a nostalgic event to commemorate, but what happened in 1955 regarding the Asian African Conference that we held before. But then, what do you think about it?
I'm unlike other people.
Right.
People who say it's nostalgic or it's a talk fest, I think they are missing the key point about our world. Our world is full of people that need to have good relationships, that learn together, and that respect each other.
I see.
Yeah.
And then, so which sectors will be benefited by hosting this event?
Well, I think that given that it's about countries improving their economic development and growth from a position of being potentially poorer countries, that clearly education is a critical issue in all of this. The education of girls and boys, of women and men. I think in terms of logistics and supply chain, each of these countries clearly has a very significant educative requirement in logistics and supply chain, because it's through those enablers that economic development can occur.
Okay, but specifically about the logistics and supply chain sector here, and then how will, in what way it could be benefited?
From the current conference?
Yes, from the conference.
Well, I think that part of it is that often countries think that they have their own problems, are their own problems, that they are not, that they are different. And I think these types of opportunities allow us to realise that actually we're probably all facing the same challenges, and rather than each coming up with our own solutions, it's much better to do it in strong partnership and have strong relationships that support those improvements and those developments. So I think one of the big benefits is for Indonesia and each of the countries involved to learn from each other, that they are very similar. Yes.
Especially for the apple-to-apple comparison.
Exactly, but also because the global market is a fairly new phenomenon. It's only been around really for a few decades. So global competitive supply chain issues are relatively new. All sorts of modern day challenges are affecting businesses through the internet and through the need for better information systems, business to business and business to government. So these are all challenges that across the world are being addressed.
Okay, so we could elaborate this supply chain and logistics of Indonesia comparing to other countries, but in the later segment. We'll be right back with more discussions. Stay tuned on Revenews International.